So when you were at the RNC,
Yeah.
okay, what are the things that you observe, right? So, I mean, what was it like going in there? You said you're in like a green room.
Yeah. It was really a weird experience.
Mhm.
I mean, not a bad one at all. I didn't really know exactly what to expect because I'd never done this before. But I got there at, I don't know, I was supposed to be there at 11:30, and then they hyped up all the security for good reason.
Mhm.
So it took me forever to get to the actual convention hall. And then they put me in this room, and I was sitting there, and almost all the speakers that came through that night were in the room.
Mhm.
And most of them made a point of like saying hello to me and very kind to me. I was dressed like I am now.
Mhm.
They were very nice, very respectful. I sat next to the Archbishop of the Milwaukee Diocese for quite a while. He was doing the invocation at the beginning of that session, and talked with him for a while. And we were kind of in this group. He had a couple of assistants, and everyone kind of assumed I was with him.
Mhm.
But it was just really interesting, just kind of sit back and watch all these politicians. And like, I didn't know who a lot of them were, but if they'd sit down next to me, I'd be like, "Oh, hi, what do you do?" And they'd be like, "I'm the governor of so-and-so." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I don't know that. I'm not from there."
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see this. I mean, it was interesting. Amber Rose, who I did not know who she was.
Tell Amber Rose is, who is she?
Well, I still don't really know.
Okay.
My daughter said she dated somebody that was was it Kanye or somebody? Was it Kanye? Yeah. Was Khalifa. He probably gave her those beautiful scalp tattoos. I wouldn't be surprised. But she walks in and very much like she's the celebrity of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And so she sits down.
Did you kneel down?
No, I just was sitting there.
Okay.
And she sat down next to me, was like looking on her phone. I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Pastor Jim Roemke. What do you do?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm Amber Rose." I'm like, "That's nice. What do you do?" Well, I was a model for a while, and now I'm an entrepreneur. And I found out like some of her entrepreneurial tasks are not kosher exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, it's nice when you can just talk. She was very pleasant. She wasn't rude or dismissive. She was nice.
Mm-hmm.
It was just interesting. When I got home, my daughters were like, "You met Amber Rose." I'm like, "I wish you didn't know who she was because she doesn't seem like a good role model."
Yeah.
I mean, I could just tell by the scalp tattoos. It's probably not a person I want my kids hanging around with. But just sitting there and watching all these people, all these big wheelers and dealers coming in and out. And we went in at one point earlier in the day. There was a rumor that Trump was going to be there when J.D. Vance was announced as the vice president.
Mm-hmm.
And so the very nice lady who was kind of like my handler and all of these, she was kind of watching over all the speakers. She got me and the Archbishop and two of his assistants. And she said, "If we go in the convention hall right now, we'll be able to see him. But if we don't go right now, they're going to shut it down. Nobody can come in or out." So we went in, we're sitting there. He didn't come out. We're walking out. And this I thought was really funny. We're walking out. The Archbishop was walking in front of me. I'm walking behind him downstairs. And a very obviously Orthodox Jewish rabbi is walking up the stairs the other way. And we kind of just like looked at each other like, you know, everything okay here? We're good? And he walked by and I tapped the Archbishop on the shoulder and I said, "I think he's the third part of a joke about us." And he thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, just little things like that. And I can tell you, like, just like walking across the convention floor, so many people came up to me, stopped me, asked me if I would have a prayer with them, if I'd give them a blessing. And I always said, like, "Yeah, I will, but I'm a Lutheran pastor. I don't want to have any false advertising here."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a Lutheran pastor. The Catholics might charge you 20 for this. I'm only going to charge 10. I didn't really say that because we don't charge for our prayers.
Yeah.
But I was happy to pray with people. You know, just sitting there. I was there for like 13 hours the whole day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was the whole day thing.
Yeah.
So I was kind of sitting there hanging out, watching all these people. And it was a fascinating thing. And then, you know, as it was getting close to time, Trump came there. And that's when I decided that I'm going to ask if I can do a Trump impersonation because I'd been kind of doing it here and there for people and they thought it was funny. And the guy who was in charge of the speeches said, "Yeah, go for it, Padre." So I did it.
Can you teach me how to do a Trump impersonation?
You got to do the hands all the time with hands. Any way you talk with hands all the time, like this.
Out in front of me.
You got to do your lips kind of like
Okay.
Yeah, like, and you got to just have a certain kind of confidence
Yeah.
that whatever you say is absolutely the right thing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me. You got to put in things like believe me.
Believe me.
Believe me.
Believe me.
I guarantee it.
I guarantee it.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And you just kind of always, you exaggerate everything. Like, this is the best, most beautiful studio I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a mustache over there that it boggles the imagination, this thing. I mean, I've never believed I'd see somebody who's, 24 years old? He looks like he's been growing this thing for 25 years at least. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. And look at this, the young, I mean, he's just such a towering man. I mean, look at him. He stands head and shoulders above everybody else all the time. You just gotta, I mean, that's what I love about it. I mean, it just, everything he says is like way over the top.
Yeah.
And I gotta believe he knows he's doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because it's part of his shtick.
Yeah.
And it's just funny.
Yeah.
And I don't think he minds being laughed at.
Yeah.
And I love that about a person.
Yeah. I remember he was given, this was years ago. I think it was before he was elected president, and he had to give some kind of speech. It was some kind of formal speech. Maybe it was already president, but like the people in the room were not his fans.
Yeah.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Was that the correspondence dinner?
That sounds like, yeah.
Yeah.
And he basically said, he's like, he was joking on himself. And he's like, and can you imagine if I drank? At no point was like, he's already so extreme. Yeah. He's like, if I
can
drank.
Can you imagine? Like, believe me, if I had a couple in me, there'd be no stopping me. I love it. Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah. So that was a good example.
And just the way, like, even when you watch him debate, like, for the first time, just his like ridiculous nicknames for people.
Yeah.
It's just great.
And they've stuck.
And they have. And this is what I love about it. He's talking to all these pompous politicians who take themselves so seriously, like, Lion Ted, you're really the worst. No one's ever, look at this guy. What was was it Paul Rand? Is that the guy?
Rand Paul?
Rand Paul, yeah, Rand Paul. He's like, and Rand Paul's like, oh, what are we in junior high making fun of? He's like, believe me, I'd have plenty of material with you. And it's like, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
You got this like 50-year-old dude with curly hair, like, going on about stuff so seriously. He's like, believe me, I could make so much fun of you.
Yeah.
You would never stop crying. It's just great.
Yeah.
And when people make fun of him, he's like, I've never had any complaints with the size of my hands. Yeah. Who comes back with that? It's just a genius way of interacting with people. He just is so quick and so fast. Mm-hmm. And he gets people and he takes them off guard and they just don't know what to do with him.